Happy Sunday, everybody. It's hashtag Showcase Sunday. And this week's visitor, our guest on our Showcase Sunday, is the amazing Nic Redman. Now, Nic Redman is the spoken voice and recording coach, and she's got some exciting news here today. So I'm going to hand it over to Nic. Nic, hi.
Hi.
Welcome. And can you introduce yourself? Can you tell us who you are, what you do, and why do you
Yes.
do it?
Why do I do it? I ask myself that every day. Uh, my name is Nic, and so thank you so much for having me. It's always lovely to get a wee chit chat in. I'm a podcaster, a voiceover artist, basically a professional speaker, and also a spoken voice and recording coach. So I basically help anyone who speaks on the microphone to feel confident sounding like themselves and recording or speaking and sharing their message with ease. So, whether you're doing a podcast or you've got a PR opportunity that's popped up and you're going, oh my God, I've got to speak on the radio, all that kind of stuff. I help prep for that. I do one-to-one coaching. I do online courses. I run retreats as well, residential retreats. I've got one, just finished one actually this weekend. And I also have a podcast called the Voice Coach Podcast, which is a great insight into what it might be like to work with me. And I've also written a book which is coming out on Thursday. Oh my
Woo!
gosh, what? It's just here.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. This is so exciting.
I know. But you said, why do I do it? I suppose I really I love voices and I love the human voice and its potential. And I love, weirdly, how much of a mystery it is to a lot of people. We speak, we learn to communicate as humans, and we go through life with voices and we don't really think about it unless you're a professional voice user, or unless something goes wrong with your voice, or unless you're asked to go on the microphone and all of a sudden your voice goes shaky and you run out of breath and you suddenly realize, what happened to my voice? I didn't know I could do that. That was terrifying. So what I love about my voice is I'm sorry, my job is that I get to help people learn how amazing their voices are, how they can have control over their voices and understand how they work in those different situations, and how they can feel empowered to sound like themselves, and not try and show up sounding like they think they should sound, trying to change their accents or fix their speech or any of that kind of nonsense. I'm not in for that shenanigans. I'm in for, like, you sound great as you are. I'm here to help you feel confident and excited and expressive and engaged, and ready to share your message when those situations occur, which is all the time now because we're always going live or jumping on press or podcast or whatever it is. Like, there's mics everywhere, basically, even if it's just like this, doing a Zoom interview or doing a Zoom kind of conference or presenting your monthly figures or whatever it is you have to do. There's mics fucking everywhere, and they are terrifying if you're not used to them.
Yeah, and it is that fear factor that kicks in with a lot of
Mm,
people. I see it all the time in business. I see it with different business owners, managers who potentially could get a cracking opportunity to share their message, and help their ideal clients. And what happens is they back out. They back
yeah.
out. They don't say yes, I'm going to do it. They just completely um avoid the situation fully. So it is so important, and I love that. I love how you help them to feel confident and be able to keep control of their voice. You hear it all the time when you hear of all these public speaking opportunities, and then potentially when they get the public speaking opportunities, they then change who they are. Then the authenticity just disappears. What's that about?
Oh yeah, well, well, to be honest, we spend a lot of time with society telling us how we should sound, and with people in the press and media and in those higher positions and those positions of management and all that kind of stuff, all those stereotypes and all those representations of the people with the power don't sound like most of us. And that's the problem.
No.
Then we sort of, it's ingrained in us from quite a young age that, maybe speak when you're spoken to, or be quiet unless someone asks, or you need to change your accent or you're never going to get that promotion, or why did you think you could speak, I can't tell what you're saying, or somebody coming over and going, sorry, can you say that again, your accent's really thick, or whatever it is. We get all this messaging that tells us our voice is not right or is not appropriate or not accepted.
Yeah.
And it is changing a little bit. Some things are changing, but there's still a lot of accent bias in the workplace for English speakers or non-native English speakers. And there's still a lot of people, including myself and everybody, we all have trigger things that trigger what would be called
Yeah.
misophonia, right? Which is things that make us feel a bit weird or sound a bit strange. And often that is, the quality of somebody's voice. So part of my job actually as an educator in voice training is also making sure that I'm teaching people to listen more kindly and more inclusively and more openly, because the change has to come from everybody, the speakers and the listeners. So if you ever sit there going, oh, I hate that accent, it sounds really stupid, dumb, silly, squeaky, annoying, just go, why is that? And examine
Yeah.
that a little bit, because we're all part of the change.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that. And limiting beliefs can hold so many people back.
Yeah.
And it's not okay, but it's
Mm.
good to be aware and actually work on it. So I'm chuffed to bits that you're sharing your message today
Woohoo!
and your book.
Message. Message. Yeah. Oh my God, what? The book?
That book that has suddenly appeared. That's
Like everybody
amazing.
who follows
I'm
me in
so
social media at the
chuffed.
moment in my community is like, stop talking. I'll buy it. Just stop talking about it, please.
And I love how your nails are actually matchy matchy.
Coordinated. Yep, absolutely. What a pro.
Fantastic. So, what's unique and different about you as opposed to your competition? What is it that you stand out above anybody else to do?
Well, I think in the on mic training world, I have quite a unique combination of skills, which is that I have spoken as a professional voice user, as a voiceover artist, and a podcaster for nearly 20 years. So I have an incredible amount of in the booth, on the mic experience in lots of different contexts. But I also have a very high level of pedagogical coach training and teacher training. So I did an MA in voice studies at Royal Central School of Speech and Drama, which was an incredibly renowned high level course to train me as a vocal pedagogue. And what we study there is teaching techniques and the psychology of teaching and coaching, as well as the in-depth vocal anatomy and how to use the voice and accents and articulation and breath and body and all that kind of stuff. So what I have in the world that I tend to move in is that combination of things. Often you get people who are good on the mic and then become coaches, but they don't have the coach training, or people who are really good coaches but they actually don't work on the mic very much anymore. So that's one of the things that I am quite passionate and excited and privileged to have, is a unique combination of really incredibly high level education and a lot of in the booth kind of at the
Yeah.
coalface experience talking. But to be honest, what most people say about working with me is that they choose me because I'm a bit of an idiot. I think so. A lot of the time in like public, and this is what's sort of scary about my book, because it's sort of it's a bit aged. Like it's full of all the stuff, but it's also a bit aged. So like I tend to I coach with humor and fun and enjoyment and curiosity, and everything's very humble, and I'm very open about what I do and don't know. I'm always on my own coaching journey and my own teaching
Mm,
journey for myself with sessions and workshops and stuff. So I'm always learning more, which I find incredibly exciting. And most clients and people who end up working with me appreciate and love that. Sometimes I might go, I don't actually know the answer to that, but I'm going to read a book and then I'll let you know. So
wow.
there's that sense of it. But I think most people like the fact that I love a bit of crack, as would say where I come from, a bit of fun. Which a lot of the time in public speaking is not as, it may be that way when you get in the room, but people don't present it like that. Everything's quite corporate and staid and still and organized and professional. And I suppose what I like to do, which is kind of terrifying both for me and the poor people who end up in the room with me on a session in a coaching space, is shake it up a wee bit, like literally and figuratively. So I'm not going in there going, here are the presentation skills, separate the room into thirds, pick eyes, don't use too many points on your PowerPoint. I'm in there going, sod all that. Your message is your message. It's inside you. How can you get
Yeah.
it out in a way that is free and engaging and exciting and honest and easy for you? So we do a lot of like physical body work, shaking things up. We do a lot of like playing with sound and exploring the potential of the voice and the capacity for sound and expression. And I try to encourage people to just go, feck it, and be present and open to exploring something that's a little bit more vibrant, I think, which isn't for every corporate space. And I get that, and I'm not offended, but that's what we got to do. We got to find our niche. And my niche is not wearing a suit and doing this.
Yeah, yeah, and I think as well, standing out is the big thing, because you can see so many people who follow that line. The other thing as well, and a lot of business owners talk about this regularly. They go on about podcasts because they listen to it in the car, but
Hmm.
never think about actually they could do it themselves. And it is quite easy to do, isn't it?
Yeah, it's easy to get started.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Not to
It
do.
Well, the exciting thing about podcasting was always that it is very grassroots. Anybody with heck, you could do it on your phone. You could start a
Yes.
podcast on your phone, and as long as you can have a little bit of a YouTube tutorial and learn how to upload it and host it somewhere and find a space for it on social media and to share it, you can start a podcast. I started my first podcast in my phone.
Yeah.
Walking around the Blue Peter Garden, I think at the BBC with my friend going, "Hello, we're having a party for voiceovers. Do you want to come?" That was like the roots of our first podcast, which is now award winning, got nominated for a British Podcast Award up
Wow.
against Stephen Bartlett and all this kind of stuff. Diary of a CEO, and that podcast has been going for 8 years now. And I think what's exciting about podcasting is that anybody can do it. If you've got an
Yeah.
idea, if you've got a spark of something that you'd like to share, you can start a podcast. The only barrier is how you feel about your voice, really, and the ability to press record, either psychologically or physically. And hospitality, I think, actually is quite an untapped space when it comes to podcasting.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's maybe changing a little bit. Like, Grace Dent has Comfort Eating, which is a great podcast, which has a little bit of roots in hospitality and food and reviews. But then we've got like Tommy Banks has just started a podcast, taking us behind the scenes of the Black Swan. And I think that's so, like, I'm really intrigued by that as a foodie.
Yeah.
And I think you've got to think outside the box about who you need to speak to and how you can speak to them and bring them in. It's not just like, hello, I'm going to tell you about what it's like working in a hotel. But actually, how exciting is a bit of behind the scenes in like a fancy hotel? Like, what shenanigans happen in there? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's
I'll tell you.
exciting to me. Oh, well, yeah, exactly. Well, listen, we have an Airbnb, so I know exactly what can happen in these environments. Of course, I would never divulge.
No.
We do get a lot of hen parties, though. Honestly, the amount of glitter that is in the shape of rude things that we find in our house. Anyway, that's for a different podcast. Point is, it is an exciting untapped market, I think, for hospitality. And, there's a lot of business podcasts out there as well, but there's always space for you and your unique voice and your unique like outlook on things.
It's so true, isn't it? And you're so right. And especially as hospitality have been really struggling with staffing, how amazing would it be to talk about the fun things that happen in hospitality as a member of the team,
Yeah.
and how about the benefits and the exciting things that you learn and develop in along the way. But it's not just about working in hospitality, it's the friends that you get from all over the world, and it's that you can end up with free accommodation all over the world as well by having that. I mean, that's quite
Amazing.
handy. Yeah,
See,
that's
I
quite
just think
handy.
the amazing thing about the amazing but also terrifying thing about podcasting is that it is kind of unregulated. So,
Yeah.
I think sometimes people think, well, my podcast needs to be like, who are you and what do you do? And tell me about your business. But actually, your podcast can be any kind of concept.
Yeah.
And that is so exciting and liberating. Like if you have a mad idea about I don't know, doing a podcast called Room 14 and just talking to the people who stay in one room. I don't know. I'm just literally making this up as I go along. Or talking to the kitchen staff, or talking to the maids, the people who do the rooms, or talking
Yeah.
to,
The
whoever.
gardener.
The gardener, like, what do they say in the middle of the night? Like, I
Yeah.
just think there's loads of potential there for some really juicy, interesting stuff. And I hear
Yeah.
stuff on podcasts all the time and go, I need to buy that. I need to go there. Do you want to go to that restaurant? Oh, did you hear that
Yeah.
review? Like, that happens to me all the time. And podcasting results come up in search engines as answers to people's problems. So the other thing is as well, there's a very easy peasy, and this is probably more about how to make a podcast, but very
Yeah.
easy reusing and repurposing of content. So if you have somebody writing a blog for you every week or every month about
Yeah.
something, because that's good for SEO, why not get somebody with who's interested to playing with the mic to record that blog? And that might be the podcast. And then it's just another way that somebody can
Yes.
consume that. And then that blog can, or that podcast, or the other way, podcast can be spoken, the best bits can be put into a blog, then into social media posts. And like there's really interesting and useful repurposing
Yeah.
cheats and hacks that you can do as well. So it's about content creation. And I am a speaker. I know I've written this book. Did I mention it?
I don't think you did.
Bye. Um, I know I've written this book, but I am first and foremost a speaker. And
Yeah,
behind the scenes, I wrote the book by speaking it, and then I organized it
I
because
love that.
that's why it feels very much like a spoken book and not like a written book.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that.
so you can do it in whatever way works for you and your organization and the feel of the brand.
Yeah, it is. It's so important because so many people get find struggles with content, and yet
Mm.
you've just mentioned about 15 different ways to be able to,
To use one thing.
yeah, one thing. It's crazy, isn't
Exactly.
it? And
You
even
could,
write
yeah,
a book as well.
yeah, you could have a couple of people talking about the weekend, and then that could become like secrets, like behind
Yeah,
the scenes secrets. That could be like 10 different social media posts. Like, I mean, there's all sorts you could do. It's exciting.
yeah. Oh,
Anyway,
so
sorry, I've waffled on there.
that really showcases what's relevant. What you do is relevant to the hospitality industry, but
Mm,
business in general, because anybody could use any of those really amazing tips there to help and support them to share their message, or actually give sneaky peeks into what's going on in a day in the life, and talk
behind the
about the
scenes.
location, destination, you know.
Yeah, I think there's huge potential.
Yeah,
Huge
yeah.
potential.
Yeah. And even advice and tips, like how many people would like to hear about hospital corners and how easy it is?
Exactly. That's a great idea. Yeah, if you want to bring a little bit of like the hospitality finesse to your bedroom. I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, it would get lost in the chaos in my house, but I think that's a lovely idea. Like what's on your tea tray? Like how to make the best tea tray, or I don't know, what's the best way to make such a hotel breakfast, or I don't know, there's lots
Yeah.
of great, funny, silly things you could do.
Yeah.
Um, and
How
I
to
think
get
there's
your
something in
poached
it for
egg.
like,
How to get your
yeah,
poached egg.
oh yes,
Absolutely perfect.
the answer to the question, the eternal question, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, that's amazing. So that leads us on to, and I know you've already shared lots of top tips already. However, I always ask my gorgeous guests who are invited onto the Showcase Sunday, what are your top 5 tips, Nic?
Mm-hmm. All right. So in terms of voice and what I do, the
Yeah.
first one is if you do want to think about doing more, whether it's lives, whether it's a podcast, or just be ready for kind of press opportunities, is record yourself and listen back and get used to your voice and learn about what your voice is. So you can do that on your phone dead easy. And it's honestly a bit cringe and horrific when you first do it because you're like, oh my God, is that how I sound? Ah. And I get that. I work with people a lot on moving past that sort of thing. So, but recording yourself just for a minute once a day and then listening back, whether it's reading from a book, if you want to do something that's more narrative, or whether it's just talking through your day, or trying like a little, I feel a bit Alan Partridge now, but like idea for a show, like speaking into your phone, kind of recording just your thoughts and your feelings, like an audio diary, something like that. So just use your voice and get used to it because it does take practice. And that's, I haven't always been this comfortable on the microphone, but I've been doing it for nearly 20 years. So you have to do it in order to be able to do it. Wow, what an amazing motto. Put that on a mug.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Record yourself, listen back constantly. Maybe set yourself a monthly challenge. Maybe you and a friend, if you I got a wee idea for a podcast, but I'm terrified. Let's record each other or record yourself having a wee conversation and then listen back. I just get to know your voice a little bit. The second thing is if you are going to go on mic, make sure you warm up. And remember, it's not just about doing one random tongue twister, it's about your whole body. And that's the process we work through in my podcast, the Voice Coach podcast, but
Mm.
also in the book. It's this idea that it's body, breath, sound, and speech. So you get the body going, you free up the tension so those nerves settle. That allows the breath to flow more freely. So you get a more supported breath and a more supported voice. Then you get the vibrations going at vocal fold level, and that gives us variety and range and vocal strength. And then we shape the speech bits, which is the tongue and the lips and the jaw, and we get all those released so that they can really respond to the sound. So get a warm up. There's a 5-minute warm up episode in the Voice Coach podcast. There's also a video on YouTube, which was a hilarious lockdown video. So apologies if you do go to that. The cardigan is very yellow. My husband keeps telling me it's too yellow, but it's up there now. And that's the way the internet works. uh, the third tip is when you do start recording, and again, this is hard, but it takes practice. I've been trying to think of a really like nice way to say this, but I'm just going to say it as it's not about you.
Yes,
Actually,
correct.
it's about your listener. It's very easy to get caught up monitoring. I would say if you're new, don't wear headphones at all. Just focus on speaking, because you just monitor yourself and you go, oh my God, what was that click or that pop or that weird noise? Or how do I say that word? That's terrible. Just focus on the listener and how you need them to feel. So your cameras should always be out. That's a phrase with a remarkable voice coach who I love called Barbara Houseman. She's always saying, cameras out. Focus on the person you're trying to affect. How do you want them to feel? What do you need them to do? What do they need to take away from your message? Because then you've got a real point of being there. It's not about your voice. It's about them. So try and reframe it a little bit, because that does make it easier to manage as well.
Yeah.
And the truth of it is your listeners will find you. People probably listen to my podcast and some go, oh, she sounds fun. And some will go, dear God, she sounds mental. I can't deal with this at all. And that's fine. Those aren't the people for me. Like attraction marketing.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's a good filter, a great filter.
Exactly. And I'm lucky now at this stage of my career that I don't have to take every client that comes my way. And I talk to everybody before I take them on. And we both work out whether I'm the right coach for them. And sometimes I'm not. And I recommend someone else, and that's fine. So focus on the listener, not on yourself. Fourth thing, maths is not my thing. The fourth thing is know your topic. So the reason we get unconfident on the mic, and the reason we and we ah, and our breath gets a bit shallow and we get a bit tense, and we're a bit less expressive than we could be, is often because actually, if you really drill down, you don't know your topic enough. You don't know the purpose of why you're there. So I like to ask 3 questions. Who are you talking to? What are you talking about? And why are you talking about it? And you need to know your topic, whether that's a scripted podcast or something that you're going to do, whether it's answering questions on a panel at an industry conference, whether it's giving the sales figures, whatever. You have to know what you're talking about. So know your topic inside out and allow yourself to riff and go off piste. So what's that saying? Plan the dive, dive the plan. Or plan the dive and then sort of dive the plan, but remember that you don't have to stay on plan. It's like Shakespeare writes an iambic pentameter, but da 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 da, and as soon as he breaks it, it's for a very specific reason, and it's exciting and interesting. So we structure and we organize and we explore and we prepare and we get our points that we know what we're going to talk about, so that if something interesting comes up, you can respond and change. So know your topic well, and don't be afraid to go off piste and come back, because that's authenticity and that's like real communication. As you can probably tell from the chaos of where my brain goes when I speak.
Nic, because I used to really worry about that, about going off topic, because I can go off topic all the time. I have to try and keep focus, and it is interesting, isn't it? Because trying to bring back, because especially if you lose your train of thought, how do you get that back? How do you go back to that focus again?
I think the first thing what people do in those environments is hold their breath and they go into fight or flight.
Yeah.
And actually what's interesting to know about voice and breath is that the in-breath is called inspiration for a reason. It comes from inspirare in Latin.
Wow.
And we get inspired on the in-breath. We have the thoughts on the in-breath. So if you lose your train of thought, just blow out. Own it for a second if you need to. Go, sorry, I went off piste there. I've lost my train of thought. Just give me a moment. Breathe out. Release your belly. Let a breath back in. And you'll probably find your thought when you let the breath in. Because when we're holding our breath, nothing happens.
Yeah.
Apart from, is the saber-toothed tiger going to eat me?
Yeah.
So, like, if you lose track, I am all for owning the fumbles, because it's human and normal, and it makes people in the audience go, oh, she's normal, like it's fine.
Yeah, thank God.
And then just breathe out, then breathe in again, and find your topic. And if you don't find it, ask the audience a question.
Cracking idea.
Yeah. Do we dance? No, that's probably what I do. And then my 5th tip, or probably the 17th tip at this point, accidentally going off piste. See Exhibit A.
You're in perfect company.
Stay hydrated. One of the main things that happens to people when they're nervous and they get on the mic is mouth noise.
Oh, wow, yes.
So the only way to counteract that is to be really hydrated. So if you know you're speaking or recording or presenting at least the day before, if not a couple of days before, up your fluids. Just keep drinking your, herbal teas, keep drinking your water, keep drinking your juice, whatever it is, as long as it's wet, in it get. um yeah, just keep drinking, because that's the one thing that will counteract that lovely sticky mucus.
That's amazing. Amazing. But we've got another top tip that's got thousands of top tips inside as well. And I think it was something like a book.
Oh my god,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I literally wrote down here as well, remember to say the book. Yes, there's loads of tips in here.
On the mic.
On the mic.
And honestly, Nic Redman's brought this amazing, incredible book with lots of tips in there to help and support you. And we'll put a link to that at the end of the Showcase Sunday. We can do that, can't we?
Yeah, it's out on Thursday, 16th
Yeah.
of March.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, have you got, and you help a range of different people in all organizations, in
Mm-hmm.
all industries, help and support them, whether they're actors, actresses, or whether they're business owners, or whether someone going to do a presentation, speech, or whatever. But what examples have you got that you've helped the hospitality industry or business in industry, and how do you add value to your clients?
Yeah, I think the main value is removing the barrier of that fear and that concern and effort. So my whole MO is ease. It's about being able to find ease in the voice itself, but ease in this environment on the mic or in your speaking situation. So, I've worked with celebrants, for example, who have to stand up on the most important day of somebody's life and share their story and their journey, and go through that lovely process with people and bring people together, or do funerals or commitments and all that kind of things. So sometimes it's about giving people the confidence to know that their voice is going to be there, because that's a big mantle to hold.
Yeah,
um and sometimes it's just about helping people make the first step, and then they just off they go. All they needed was, in a way, permission, sort of, that it's okay. They've got the idea, they've got the voice. Is that all right? Yeah, off you go. Sometimes it's just a permission. Sometimes it's step by step, kind of, right, do this to your body, do this to your breath, do this to your vocal folds, do this to your articulators. It's that warm up process. Maybe it's really in-depth look at breath and what happens to your breath when you get nervous, and how you can sort of counteract that and get a little bit of control over the breath again. It's really about helping you share your message clearly, and be able to exploit those moments when they come. If
yeah.
it's a Q&A at the end of a talk, and you've really, really rehearsed the talk, and all of a sudden someone asks a question that's a bit out of the blue, and you're like, oh God, how do I answer that? And your voice kind of, the mouth gets saliva-y and the breath kind of goes, and just all those kind of moments, so that you can really uh, exploit them for their potential and not feel ambushed. I
Yeah,
mean, I work with all kinds of people, like I was saying. So I've worked with celebrants, I've worked with teachers, I've worked with preachers, I've worked with business people, some people who now just find themselves going live on Instagram all the time, or guesting on podcasts all the time because of their business, that kind of thing. I've also helped, people in hotel groups, staff in hotel groups, with those moments, even where you just have to stand up and introduce yourself in a networking event. Because
yeah.
that, okay, I've got 60 seconds, right? 60 seconds to say, I'll say my name, and then I'll say my, oh God, what do I do again? And then I'll probably need to mention that we've got this 15% deal on, and maybe what's the email? Those like talking business card moments as well, finding the grace and the comfort in that. It's really just about getting you in tip-top shape to do a lot of talking. I mean, sometimes that's just the staff on the front desk who have
Yeah.
a really busy weekend or a night shift into a morning shift, and their voice is knackered, and they're trying to present to the brand and make the customer feel welcome, but they're a little bit croaky or a little bit tired. Tiny little vocal warm-ups and resets can be really liberating and empowering in those environments. Also, they're really ridiculous, so they're good fun. Well, mine are anyway.
That's fantastic. And it's so true, because you can get, I notice when I get really tired, I sound drunk. Uh, I
Yeah.
do. When you get really tired, if you've been, especially in the industry when I used to be working all hours, God sends, and then, at the end of the shift when it's coming, the late morning after you'd been working all day and night the day before, and then suddenly you sounded like you'd had a few too many, even though you'd not had a drink.
Tough, isn't it? Well, your voice is muscles. Like the muscles
Yeah,
get tired and harder to move. So yeah, slurred
yeah,
speech alert.
yeah. I love that. And if someone was sitting on the fence here, because I think it's a no-brainer, obviously, having somebody who's an expert in their field helping and supporting you to overcome any barriers to be able to deliver your message to the outside world in a really effective way. If someone was sitting on the fence right now, what on earth? Why would they? Especially,
Am I right?
yeah. What would any of your past or your present clients say about you now that would make them think, "Wow, yeah, okay, I'll dial the number or I'll email Nic right now and I'll book a
Mm.
call."
I think a lot of the time what comes back in case studies and testimonials, of which there are lots on my website, is they usually start with "just do it!" exclamation mark, in the sense that nobody, if you've not done it before, you don't realize how liberating and how some of it's actually quite easy changes. How much it can change you and help you voice work. Like, and a recent realization for me on my journey has
Yeah.
been how completely holistic it is. So, doing a voice warm up in the morning actually helps with a bit of mindfulness, it's a bit of breath work, it's release of tension. It's so much that is holistic and can affect and help not just your voice. It can help you settle your mind. It can help you feel confident and, reduce anxiety or feelings of nerves. It can help with imposter syndrome. There's so many ways that a voice warm up helps you with more than just your voice. And the outcome of being on the mic and being able to speak and going, do you know what? I'm really bloody proud of that, actually. Like, that's a really exciting buzz. So I think for complete newbies, you will not know, you will not know how it may or may not help you unless you try it. Most newbies find it fascinating, liberating, fun. Um, because we're releasing a lot of tension and getting the body going as well, because tension is the enemy of a free and expressive voice. So you don't know until you try. So look, I could be like, well, I'll change your life forever. I might do, might not, but you won't know until you
Excuse
try, will
me.
you?
That's it. That is it. Yeah, because if your clients are sat there now thinking, gosh, just do it. But the fact you've got all your testimonials and case studies up on your website, anybody's sitting on the fence right now can go and read them.
Go and
They
have a
could
look,
go
yeah.
and
And
or listen to
I
them.
think there's probably like 100 5-star reviews of my podcast and how useful people have
Yeah,
found that. So, this, I'm not here going, give me all your money. The reason I've got the podcast is so people can try that and see what they think.
yeah,
And some people get loads out of that. They go, thank you so much. I just want to say I love it. I can't invest anything right now, but I just want to say thank you for the podcast, for example. And that's
yeah,
great. Like, that's one of my big passions, is like making it feel completely accessible to people. Because I think a lot of the time voice training feels like it's reserved for like people at drama school working on the
yeah,
RSC, or
yeah,
for like big CEOs presenting at conferences. But I'm here to tell you that, like, from literal experience every single day, that like even just like you doing your wee podcast or talking over a desk to somebody, voice work is for you too, and that doesn't have to come at a huge whopping price. So accessibility is really important for me. It's actually funny enough. It's why the book, when you first open it, you might be like, "What the hell is this font?" But it's written in dyslexic friendly font, so that anybody who's
wow.
coming to this, who usually with a book would be like, "Oh, it'll take me 4 years to read that. I'm not going to bother." You can read the podcast if you want. Listen to the podcast instead if you want. But it's just designed to be as accessible
Yeah,
as possible for everybody. So yeah, listen to the podcast. If you're on the fence, listen to the podcast, or go to the website and see the case studies and stuff, or set up a call and we'll have a chat. Love a chat.
I love that. I love that. No, that's brilliant. Thank you.
No.
And I think the other element, obviously, we need to make sure that we've got all the details right. How can anybody get in touch with you, Nick?
Well,
How do they do that?
my website is nicredmanvoice.com. I'm on Instagram at Nic Red Voice. That's probably where I'm most active. I am dipping my toe in TikTok, but it's terrifying. um,
Really?
well, I had one TikTok after about 2 days on there go a bit viral, and it was like
Wow.
terrifying. So I was like, oh my god, I'm running away again. But I'm back on there now. Uh, so that's fine. And then if you want the book, it's on themicbook.com.
And we can show it again, obviously, with your gorgeous nails to keep it there. Look at that. Fantastic. And it's out this Thursday. And we're going to put a link on the end of our interview as well, to anybody who's watching our showcase Sunday to make sure that they can get a book, your book, right now on the mic.
Please do. Please support small business.
Yeah, and they can pre-order it, can't they?
There's a waiting list, yeah. So if
Yes,
you put your name on
brilliant.
the waiting list, I'll send you all the links that you need as soon as it comes out, and probably 97 times. But there's also I've got some prizes and stuff on the go for anybody on the wait list. So you can win
That
some
is brilliant.
coaching, you can win a place on my course, you can win hilariously branded mugs. Hang on. So I've got a mug that says stay hydrated for feck's sake on it, and some pens that say the same, and then I've got some pencils with silly Irish swears on them.
I love that. We all need to stay
All
hydrated.
right. We do. It's very good for you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
You have given some amazing top tips there. That is so, so helpful to everybody out there who's listening right now. And if there's anybody who's sitting on the fence, what on earth? But go and buy that book, and certainly sign up. Even if you go on the waiting list right now and listen to the podcast, because they are something to be treasured.
Oh, thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on our Showcase Sunday, Nick. Thank you
Thank you for
very much.
having me.
It's been a pleasure.